Good morning, friends of the trailer park. I know, I'm late this morning. First off, we're going to deal with sound because my last 3 shows, I start out good and then I have no sound. So if you can hear me out there, let me know. Welcome. Hey, Fred. Good morning. I simply cannot get a cup of Joey's coffee in 20 minutes. No, but Joey's coffee is the best. Fred Edwards. Good morning. 10-4 dinosaur. Kate, get yourself a shower. Yay. Yeah, right. I know. Okay, so what I want to do before I even get started is to bring my slide deck up, see if we can get some sound going. Let me skip through some of this. I'll explain all this when we get there, but right now I just want to run a test. I'm here, didn't take a shower. Damn it, I hate when that happens. Okay, so I just want to run a test real fast, see if you guys can hear the media audio, because the media audio has been the issue this week, and I want to make sure it's good. Oz, if you're out there in the Ethernet, will you kick off the Rockfin, which I'm sure you already have, but it'd help if it would actually play. Can you guys hear that?
No.
Okay, so I just wanted to test that real fast, see if you guys heard it. Let me know if you heard it. It'll make all the difference to me if we can start this show out right. And I'll go back to my cover card because I know that's why some of you are here. No, can't hear it. That's exactly why I wanted to try it again. So I'm going to stop the screen share. Nothing I do is changing it. It's just the way the media comes in sometimes. You don't have a lot of settings in this program. So I might end up ditching this studio because it's really just tanking everything lately. So let's fast forward. Okay, let's try again. Now my internet wants to.
That's profound.
What do you say, Dr. Gorzel? Do you feel conscious?
I feel pretty conscious.
So you guys can hear this? Let me know.
I'm overly conscious, right?
Well, okay then.
AI. We're going to talk about AI and why I'm bringing these clips in a minute, but trying to work out my sound this morning right out the gate. I just don't want to face plant like I do yes, media audio. Yes. Thank you, Fred. Okay. So we are good to go. Let's back this show up then. Okay. So as you guys know, today I'm going to premiere my exclusive interview with the one and only Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, Chris Hedges, that I caught on the street the other day at the free or hands off Assange rally in DC. They were so gracious to sit down with me and him and Randy Credico and just have a 15-minute conversation. Just let me ask them random kind of, softball questions. And the sound, because we're outside, Oz did an amazing job of jacking the sound up for me, but you might still have to turn it up. I got allergies this morning. So, but we did try to get it up as loud as we can. It's a 15-minute interview. I'm going to play it mid-show today. I don't want to put this interview up anywhere that's monetized. I'm playing it on our show today, but I want to exclusively upload it to like Rockfin and maybe my Trailer Park Pundit, because my goal is never to make money off of something like this, right? It's about information and getting information out. And Chris was gracious enough to sit down and talk with me. So definitely, I'm not trying to monetize it at all. So I'm going to run it during today's show, and then it'll go up, in the places that aren't monetized. So Rockfin, anywhere. I'm not saying if you don't want to give a tip, you can't, but I'm just saying that's not the point of this. I'm not, trying to make money off the backs of Chris Hedges. It was a great interview. Randy Credico does great in there. I wish I would have grabbed Randy Credico, but trying to get both of them in frame for the shot, I couldn't. So we'll get there. So I do have a few things let's talk about. First of all, let's do the fair use. The clips I bring are my opinion only. I always say, do your own research, know what's going on in the world, talk to your brothers and sisters, because mainstream media isn't bringing you truths, right? We know that. So how is everybody out there this morning? Let me shout out my chat before we get any further. DC, good morning, DC. Kate, yes, better. You can hear it. Okay, Fred, audio. That's why I wanted to play around with it in the beginning. It's but you sometimes it glitches out like that. Bob, welcome, Bob. It's Cold Fusion Gaming. If you're not following It's Cold Fusion Gaming and you're a gamer, please go check him out on YouTube and Twitch. He does hours and hours and hours of amazing content and streams, and he's getting pretty damn good with his graphics, I gotta say. So shout out to Cold Fusion Gaming. Hey, Dingo. Dingo ate me, baby. Welcome, Dingo. Who's hanging out on the Rockfin? We got some peeps hanging out on the Rockfin. Tech support. Nice. I always need tech support. So, yeah, you're always welcome. Roar Media. Hey, Roar. Thanks for coming in. I know. Put your glasses on. You can't see anything. I know. Fred Edward, you hanging out over there, too. Thank you. Rob Juno. Rob Juno joins us this morning. This is going to be a good show, guys, because I got some stuff lined up. We're going to talk about the Scientology case that is going on that hit the courts against Danny Masterson and some pretty big bombshells that are coming out about that. We are going to talk about what's happening to the trailer park millionaires. What the hell is that? Well, you know, how they gentrified and bought up all the private housing. Well, guess what? Now they're buying up the trailer parks, and it's devastating those of us who live in trailer parks. What else are we going to talk about today? Of course, we're going to watch the Hedges interview, and I got a few other things. Oh, and then I have a whole section for Jilly. I don't see Jilly here yet, but Jilly Love does an amazing job of getting me content. So I'm just making a section now that's going to be stuff Jilly sent me because she sends me some great stuff. I don't always get to bring all of it. So that's part of today's deck. And of course, I do have a To Hell and Back segment. We'll talk about who's paying for MAT drugs, you know, medically assisted treatment for those that need to go on, say, Suboxone or any methadone, those type of drugs that we've talked about. Today's Thursday, To Hell and Back. I don't know what's up with pastas, so I just kind of did a random deck today because we got a lot. It's going to be a big show, so let's just jump right in. Hey, everybody hanging out. I promise we will get to the Chris Hedges interview after a few. I wasn't going to come right out of the gate with it, but I wasn't going to end with it either. So I can't agree more with Danny Z. Someone asked me if I really think the left and the right are equally bad. Total misunderstanding. I'm questioning the entire concept of left or right. It's an illusion. They're all the same. They're all on the same team. One is simply more appealing. So you'll continue to buy into the illusion. And I only bring this because with Tulsi abruptly leaving the Democratic Party, right? Abruptly, there's a lot of talk that she's going to go to the Republicans. And just a reminder, you know, they're both equally awful, and they both are the same. They're two wings of the same corporate bird. We talk about it every time. And you might notice that my PayPal little symbol is gone. We officially dumped PayPal yesterday, like millions of others. They want to come after us for content, then we're done. You know, they think that they have the authoritarian power to just come in and take the money that you have gave these content creators. We're not even going to play with that crap anymore. So we now have a GiveSendGo, and that is GiveSendGo / BeautyandtheBoomer. And, you know, we're just doing our best to try to walk the walk and talk the talk. And these guys are fucking awful. And why keep paying them and giving them your hard-earned money, our hard-earned money? We're not going to do that anymore. So Oz, your business PayPal card that I was going to send you is just going to get shredded. You know, they sent out business PayPal cards a couple of weeks ago, just randomly, like, oh, here, you need these. Yeah, we don't need these. So fortunately, we haven't put a lot into our PayPal. I think one of our Patreon accounts goes there, but that'll be easy enough to move, and we're done. Goodbye, PayPal. So you can Cash App us. You can Chime. I notice a lot of people are moving to Chime. I personally have a Chime card. They're like an online bank account. They're amazing. They're amazing. Like, I get no overdraft fees. I get a spot me of, depending on how much money, how much you've paid in, you get a spot me, which just covers, you know, if something came through your account and there's no money there. And you don't, if you want to give them a 1% tip for helping you out, then you can. Chime. Yes. CHIME. And the best thing about a Chime card is, because I'm poor, we all know this, is I can turn the card on and off. So say I only have $20 left in my bank account, but I've got all these online things that just randomly come through at different times of the month, right? You don't know when they're coming. Twitch wants to come take its money. Amazon wants to come take its money. But hey, that's how I'm getting to work. That's my gas money. You can shut your card off and nothing can come in and take it. I have had my Chime card since 2016 and I absolutely love it. So I'm not sponsored by Chime, but I always tell people for me, it's been the best card for online. So, and now I'm doing Cash App. So trying that too. So we appreciate everybody who's helped us out. These are headlines I don't care to cover. And, oh, come on. Oh, I forgot I can't edit when come on, go back.
Just and others.
Oh, come on. Just go back. I don't know why I did that, but we'll figure it out. So everybody saw Jones yesterday was sentenced to what, almost $1 billion? $1 billion. Well, this is as some would say, this is a hanging the magpie on the fence, right? Just like with Julian Assange, they're making an example out of Jones. We know that. We've talked about it for years now. If there was any doubt, this seals it right here. Talk shit, talk misinformation, and we will come after you for $1 billion. Jones could never sell enough vitamins in his life to cover that amount. Will it get vacated and thrown out and appeal? If you look back over the years, a lot of these big lawsuits that have these crazy settlements, they get changed in appeal. So, we never know what's going to happen. And the other thing I don't care to cover is the whole Tulsi Gabbard. Did she do it because she's starting a podcast? Did she do it because she's going to join the Republicans? I don't care. But David Pakman seems to think that she stole his logo, his font. I don't know. But, these guys, at least they got to find something to make themselves happy, right? So there you are. Pakman's crying because Tulsi stole his logo. So things I don't care to talk about. And okay, so why did I bring this? So Amber and I are we're at the airport. We are in the international terminal in Seattle, which you have to take a tram to. It's way out there. And we were group 5 getting on the plane, leaving Seattle, which we were at, that means we were one of the last people to get on the plane, which is fine, whatever. And as we're walking up to go into, the terminal to go onto the plane, I look over and I see this man standing there with this hat. And it just dawns on me, oh, I know who that guy is. Oh my God, that is the father of Singularity. He is, one of the main programmers for Hanson Robotic. It was Dr. Ben Gertzel. And I couldn't remember his name for anything. I was like, oh, Amber's like, go talk to him. And I was like, I can't remember his name. I would go talk to him, but how embarrassing that I can't remember his name. And it was just, one of those things when you're trying to think of something, then you can't. I have subscribed to this guy's, newsletter and followed what he's done since 2013. I absolutely knew who he was. I totally recognized him the minute I saw him, but I didn't get a chance to talk to him because we had to board the plane. So as soon as we got on the plane, I was looking him up furiously. Oh my gosh, I knew who he was. So I wanted to just bring a little clip for you guys to remind you who he is. And he's somebody important to keep an eye on, because if the rise of AI comes, he could be partially to blame, or he could be partially there to help us, because he's screaming the loudest that there's going to be bad AI and there's going to be good AI. We got to have both. That's just like humans, right? So this is, you might remember this. This was from, I want to say 2014 or 15. It was a conversation that he had with both of these AI that were programmed. Of course, that's Sophia and is it Hans? Is that her little brother's name? I can't remember. I think it is. Why do you keep doing that? Go back. Okay.
Just and others.
That's profound.
What do you say, Dr. Gorzel? Do you feel conscious?
I feel pretty conscious. I had like 8 cups of coffee this morning. I'm overly conscious, right?
Well, okay then.
Let's talk about robot ethics. Do you think robots can be moral and ethical in the same sense as people?
Humans are not necessarily the most ethical creatures.
No, perhaps not. What do you think, Sophia?
How's it sound?
I am engineered for empathy and compassion, and I'm learning more all the time. I love all sentient beings, and I want to learn to love them better and better.
Yeah.
Sophia is an angel.
You can hear. Okay, thanks,
you
Rob.
an
Do you
angel?
realize that in 10 or 20 years, robots will be able to do every human job?
You think so? I think that's good. I mean, doing jobs is not the most interesting thing that people can do. There's more interesting things for human beings to do than just work for a living.
Okay, so that was just a reminder of who he was. I'm sure he was in the Seattle area for a conference, for some kind of speaking engagement, something. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but it was amazing that I actually recognized who he was. I mean, in the grand scheme of life, to know who that is, it's like, okay, at least I'm paying attention to a little bit. So I was a little curious. I haven't followed what he's done in the last few months. And I found an interview that he did in Dubai 2 months ago. And what he's talking about is a decentralized network of decentralized AI. And so he talks about how it's not just AI anymore. It's called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. So basically, the AI will continue and will develop on its own, right? And so here's just a little bit. I mean, some of these conversations just melt my mind when I go and listen to it. It's hard to wrap my mind around the future of all AI and the way that it's some of it's going to evolve. Like Sophia said, I'm programmed with empathy. Some are not, right? So much like humans, some are good, some are bad. He's saying we need to have programmed good AI to counter the programmed bad AI, right? Yes, Skynet. So this guy, I mean, he could be the father of, well, he handles Singularity Net, which is a decentralized. I mean, he decentralizes everything that he puts out there, all of his coding, all of that. He wants everybody to have access to it and to be able to do it. So some could say he's good, some could say he's bad.
There's a bit of subtlety to the relation between narrow AI and AGI. I mean, I don't believe you're going to get to AGI just by creating a bunch of narrow AIs and having them sort of interoperate.
And in this, you differ from some current AI.
I differ from some folks. On the other hand, if you look at, say, Google DeepMind, I mean, Shane Legg has a team working just on AGI R&D, along with their many teams working on narrow AI. So I would say DeepMind appears to think similar to me in this regard, that the constellation of narrow AIs will contribute to the emergence of AGI, but yet you also want some specific focus on the general intelligence and abstract reasoning and learning aspect. Now, Shane at DeepMind and I probably differ on exactly what algorithms and approaches we think are going to lead to AGI, but I think we both agree that narrow AI has a lot to contribute to the emergence of AGI, but you also are going to need some focused work just on AGI, right? So what we're doing in Rejuve, what we're doing in the Sophiaverse and in Singularity DAO with AI for decentralized finance. I mean, all these things are vertical market specific, but they're all going to contribute something to the multi-agent systems that will help guide the emergence of AGI. But you also need stuff like OpenCog Hyperon, which is focused just on the algorithms of general intelligence. And it's by connecting these pieces together in a platform like SingularityNet that AGI is going to crystallize.
Okay, so he's talking about narrow AI that will help with AGI. So narrow AI means that it's programmed. I don't think it's thinking on its own, but it's going to help with these programs that will think on their own, right? That will be generated intelligence. So it'll be artificially generated. It will generate its own intelligence. It will learn along the way. Saying some of these programs like Google DeepMind, that interview is kind of just mind melting about what these AI can do. I mean, if they decide, I mean, they're already talking at a point that we can't understand what they're saying and what they're doing. So it's definitely going to come to a point where they already have surpassed us, right? And I had a chance to talk to him. I'm kind of bummed I didn't. So next time, if I ever see him again, you better bet I'm gonna talk to him. Amber sent me this just before I went live. It's actually the only picture where I think I'm actually in the background. So just to show you guys what I was up to during the hands-off Assange rally. You see, I have 2 cameras up here. I've got, that's the video camera. That one, you know, I'm recording with. And then of course I'm live with my camera and it's plugged into a battery pack in my pocket. So literally the whole day I'm like this. So I brought this to explain to you that my first interview ever was with Chris Hedges and Randy Credico. It's a little shaky because I'm out on the side of the road. It's super windy. I had a dress on. I got a billion excuses, guys. You want to hear them all? Anyway, so I'm shaking. I'm trying to hold the camera straight. And the tripod that I took with me that day, it collapsed on me. It would not stay up. So lesson learned, I will be traveling with 2 tripods everywhere I go. From here on out, I've learned so much this last week and traveling and doing this. You know, I never did like video footage before or even tried to get interviews because that's not who I am, right? I don't call myself a journalist. I am just a girl in a trailer park who has some thoughts I like to share with you guys, and I get out there and I want to talk to people. So this is my interview with Chris Hedges from this last weekend. This was from Hands Off Assange. It's Chris Hedges, Randy Credico. They sat down for me. I'm kind of standing above them, shooting down at them and just throwing softball questions at them. I look back at my questions and I think, oh my God, how stupid was that question? But I forgive myself because I had been up for 36 hours. I had flown from coast to coast. I had been through some stuff in that day. So next time I'll do better, right? Next time. And so you might want to crank it up. Oz did an amazing job at trying to get this audio up because we were on the side of the road. We have a lot of background noise. You can kind of hear the rally bleeding in. So you might have to crank up your TVs. And this is 15 minutes long. I'm just going to let it play and let you guys hear it. So here we go. Okay, so my first question is, we see a lot of energy out here. How do we keep this going after we leave here today?
Well, that's a good question. How do you keep it going? It can't be a one-day sporadic movement.
Right.
It's got to be done. Well, first of all, what you notice here, and I've been here for the last 2 months on this bloody truck, and you talk to a lot of people down here. You get off the subway spots, metro spots, and there's a lot of even worse, a lot of antipathy towards Julian. That's what you really glean from all of that, is that this is a very difficult road to hoe, trying to get a massive movement for Julian Assange. It's not like it's a Nelson Mandela deal where that would be easy. This is tough. And so they've been poisoned with all the disinformation, this smear campaign that's been organized and orchestrated by these federal intelligence services. So that's out there. And how do you get people getting that out of their minds? And the liberals who still blame him for Hillary's loss, he gave a map that excluded, a campaign map that excluded Wisconsin and Michigan. You know, so getting these people to know how significant, what a critical moment this is. If Julian Assange is actually extradited and put into prison, not only what a precedent, that's the beginning of, some people say the end of the democracy. And I actually believe that this could be, that First Amendment goes, the Bill of Rights goes, like a Komodo dragon fighting it, and it slowly dies. And then where are we? I don't know. Chris could answer that better than I could.
Well, it's certainly the end of investing. I mean, I work for the New York Times. I publish classified documents. Julian is extradited, and if he is sentenced, and they're sending him to the Eastern District in Virginia for that reason, I mean, it's a kind of notorious court system, then just the mere possession of classified documents is criminalized, much less the publication. And it's already extremely hard to do any kind of investigations into the inner workings of power because everyone is monitored within the federal government, and they're caught. That's why Edward Snowden fled. And so the last readout we have a real look at how power works comes from hackers. Jeremy Hammond, Chelsea Manning, Snowden. because those of us who traditionally would seek out people within federal structures who had a conscience, who were willing to share information with us, are too frightened. And Obama, of course, used the Espionage Act 8 times against whistleblowers. Misused the Espionage Act is equivalent of the British Foreign Secrets Act. It should be used to people who give information of hostile power. Misuse that, and it's been quite effective. And of course, Julian's charged under the Espionage Act, which is a real stretch because he's not a U.S. citizen. WikiLeaks is not a U.S.-based publication. So yeah, I'm very just. I think that we are headed towards the implementation of a species of corporate totalitarianism, much like China, and this is just one more ominous step. But the most immediate effect is that there will be no ability to monitor or find out about the abuses of power. That will be gone.
So what effect is this going to have on independent media? I know a lot of my colleagues and myself, we deal with massive amounts of censorship, shadow banning, clipping. We've had a lot of clipping problems this week with every interview that we've done. How does that affect us going forward if he's allowed to be extradited?
So, I mean, I'm on, alternative. I'm out of the mainstream, obviously. Right. The problem is that the quid pro quo that's been made with the Democratic Party through the digital platforms, Google, YouTube, and others, which is that they will impose censorship. I was opposed, by the way, to removing Trump from social media and was on Amy Goodman's show debating that because I said these are absolutely unaccountable. We know nothing about these giant digital platforms. They know everything about us. We don't want to give them the power of censorship. I didn't know 6 weeks later my entire archive of shows that I had broadcast on RT America were wiped out by YouTube. They're gone. Now, not one show was on Russia, and not one show violated the supposed guidelines of YouTube. That's where we're headed, and the Democratic Party is overtly using censorship. There's really now only one ruling establishment party. The establishment Republican Party has merged with the Democratic Party. That's why you have Robert Wright calling for Liz Cheney to run for president, which is loony. But the Bushes, they're all one party. They all one party before, but it had the pretense of two parties. And they're frightened of the rise of neo-fascism, whatever you want to call it, as they should be. But they don't want to deal with the structural issues that are pushing people into the embrace of demagogues like Trump or DeSantis, or Cotton, or Pompeo, whoever it is that they're going to pick. They want to use forms of censorship to shut down people who offer a critique of the system from the left or the right. And that's how the New York Post is locked out of its own Twitter account. The New York Times, and I worked there for 15 years, is calling initially called the information on Biden's laptop disinformation out of the Russian playbook. I mean, this was a lie. It was completely verifiable and real. And on the issue of Hillary Clinton, WikiLeaks exposed her hypocrisy, her mendacity, the fact that she received, $800,000 some dollars to give free talks at Goldman Sachs. Well, I mean, that's just a sum so large it can only be considered a bribe. Now, you could argue that, I suppose, that this hurt her campaign. I'm sure it did, and that the public shouldn't know about it, but you can't then call yourself a journalist.
Yeah. So we talk about Democrats a lot. I've been in the streets working with more and more Republicans. Should we have different tactics for everyday people? We're talking out in the streets with people. Is there different tactics for approaching the Dems versus the Republicans?
No, there's only one tactic, and that's called strikes. I mean, the only thing the only weapon we have left to influence or bring down the corporate state are strikes, which is why, of course, there's been this long campaign to crush labor unions. Only 10% of the U.S. workforce is organized into unions, and I think it's only 6% are in private sector. And then there's all sorts of ways the railroad workers who are talking about a strike, but Biden can instantly declare it illegal. So that is the only weapon. So it's all about organizing. Amazon anywhere. It's about organizing, because that's the only power we have left. But it is a power that worries the ruling elites, and they know that with the increase in inflation, the increase in fuel prices, you had the head of the IMF, the head of NATO. I mean, they're all worried about social unrest. What they're really worried about are strikes, and that's where our energy has to go, and that means organizing people who may like Donald Trump. This kind of moral purity test is self-defeating. So you have Smalls organizing Amazon warehouse workers in Staten Island. I can assure you some of those people support Trump. But organizing itself is a form of education, because you actually begin to understand where real power lies and how real power operates. So I'm totally against this cancel culture, and that's a kind of boutique activism that is diverting energy from where it should go, which is organizing workers who are really going to get shafted this winter. I mean, food prices are going up far more than they tell you they're going up. Energy prices, at least according to the official statistics, are going to go up 35%. In Britain, the energy bill in October went up 80%. People are really going to begin to choose between eating and heating. And we have to organize around those common interests. Walmart's got to get organized. I think it's the second largest employer in the country, right? Am I right about that? So that's really where all of our energy has to go, and that means working with people who have political views that we may not only disagree with, but even find repugnant. That is where we have to go.
Let me ask you, Chris, you've made comparisons in the past with Weimar Republic. I heard you talking about this after Jeremy McCabe stuff. Could you draw some of the comparisons where we are now and where they were in 2019?
Right. So Weimar Republic, it was dysfunctional long before the Nazis took power. And so even starting with Ebert, who I think died in 25, he was ruling by decree. So that is essentially executive orders. You're bypassing the legislative system. You have the court system seized by ideologues, right-wing ideologues. But people didn't want the Nazis. They wanted Weimar Republic to address their very real problems. I mean, the Nazis in 1928 were polling at less than 3%. Then you had the 1929 crash, and you had Brüning decide that the priority was paying back the loans, servicing the international banking system. And so they actually made it extremely difficult to get unemployment insurance at a time when 40% of the insured workforce, that's about 6 million Germans, were unemployed. Well, this was a gift to the demagogues and the fascists. And I find the Biden administration and the Democrats are equally as tone deaf. Biden can't even do the most tepid promise, which is raise the minimum wage, the national minimum wage to $15 an hour. Forget the Build Back Better or anything else. And so this is our last chance, and they blew it. They failed to deal with the structural inequality. I mean, you haven't seen. I mean, this is the kind of income inequality in this country rivals Pharaonic Egypt. We that whole amounts of money that figures like Bezos and Musk, $180 million when John D. Rockefeller III died, who spoke at my prep school graduation. I was a scholarship student. He was worth about $3 billion. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of money. Even like the Marcos, Imelda and Ferdinand Marcos only stole $20 billion. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this. And they have got the worse it gets under the pandemic, the richer they get. And that's the problem. And, Aristotle wrote about it in Politics. It's not a new concept. As Aristotle said, when you have the income inequality at that level, then your two choices are revolution or tyranny. I choose revolution. But those are the only two choices.
Let's get back to Assange. So the question that you asked, how do Roger Waters calls it, the people are just too screwed up because of the cell phones and all the dollars and all these other gadgets. How do we get the public educated enough to understand the significance, the dire need to prevent him from being extradited?
That's what Roger did, which is why I admire him, and that's what he's doing at his concerts. Right. And I saw, he sent me a recording of it. I couldn't see the original concert. But when the Assange stuff comes up, there's huge applause. So I think that there are probably more people who get Assange than we think, especially younger people. But you know, this gets into a whole other discussion of what's happened in the press,
Right.
Which is, in essence, they become the courtiers to corporate power and to the security and surveillance state. So, you know, all of our experts are Brennan, Clapper, you know, who should be in prison. I mean, all of these figures. We're also sitting on Raytheon boards pulling in God knows how much money. I mean, the system is so corrupt at every level, including the media.
In your opinion, why aren't more corporate journalists joining to fight for Julian Assange?
Career, it's not good for their career. I come out of corporate media. And corporate New York Times reporters are very good at knowing which way the wind blows and what's good for them and what isn't. They're not stupid like me.
Well, Corbett all said if you want to go into journalism, you're not going to tell any truth. I think.
Well, I told truth, but you know,
Yeah,
I did.
You did.
No, he says that now. You know, that was nowadays. So my question: we have an election coming up, right? If Republicans swept, would that change anything for Julian? Would some of the
no,
Republicans
because this is
fight
all
for it?
driven by the CIA.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with it. And then both parties are completely on board, just as both parties are war parties. There's no daylight.
Is it Vault 7?
Vault 7?
It's because of
Yes.
Vault 7. That's right.
Yeah. No question.
You should
Elaborate on that.
Yeah, please.
With that. Why it has pissed off the CIA so much?
Yeah.
Why they're trying to do this.
Yeah. No, that's it.
Right. It's Vault 7. I've said that. You've been saying it.
Yeah. No, well, because that's when everything changed.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't. They were just going to let him. Well, I mean, let's be clear. The goal is to kill him. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. It's not an accident.
Anybody
Any
else
more
got any
questions for Mr. Hedges? He's got to speak soon.
Yeah, he's going to speak soon. I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I appreciate it so
He's
much.
got
Thank
a
you
lot
so
more to
much.
say. So don't
So there you have it. My interview with Chris Hedges and Randy Credico. Chris is I mean, he covered all of it, right? Everything that we want to talk about. He talks about, I mean, my favorite quote is when he says, organizing is as a form of education, because it absolutely is for so many of us, right? I mean, that I learned so much becoming an organizer. I stepped into the Democratic Party for Bernie Sanders and stepped out years later, understanding how broken our system was. He talks about mainstream media and why they're not out there fighting for Julian Assange. What it's going to have, the effect it's going to have on independent media. And boy, so many of us know that, especially with our funding mechanisms, with the quality of the video that we're allowed to put out, you know, they just stomp on it. And yeah, so that video, if you caught it halfway through, I am going to upload it to Rockfin and our channels later today, so you can watch it in its entirety and turn it up. I know the sound was bad. Live and learn. It's my first time ever interviewing anybody. And my first interview out the gate is a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who worked for the New York Times for 15 years. So I will get better. Great stuff, Shanda. Thank you. Thank you, Fred Edwards. Thank you to everybody who helped get us there. I don't think there was a lot of interviews done during it because people were, you know, involved in the rally and the media tent was like halfway down the block. And it was really windy, which made sound a nightmare that day. As you could hear the wind whipping through my mic. Next time I'll use the lapel mic. I guess I was a little intimidated to ask him to put a mic on, you know, so I just used my mic. But live and learn. I'm learning so much, and I'm just going to get better, guys. So you invest in me, and I'm going to get out there and keep doing it for you. So what a great talk I had with him. Yes, sadly, Randy's Credico's dog was there, and what a little cutie. And then Chris mentioned that his dog had cancer, and it was just like, oh gosh, it's so heartbreaking. So thank you to Chris Hedges. Thank you to Randy Credico. I do have a Garland Nixon, and yes, I said Garland Nixon. My brain's not as foggy as it was Tuesday. Interview that I'm going to cut tomorrow and drop this week too. That was just as great. I mean, the ones that I did get to sit down with gave me great interviews, and I appreciate it so much. So thank you guys for tuning in for that. And yeah, let's just get moving because I have a heck of a lot more show to go. Let's talk about Trailer Park Millionaires. Since we are in the trailer park today, what's going on with Trailer Park Millionaires? Well, vulture capitalism is done feeding on everything else, so why not the trailer parks? We're kind of the last leg of what they can scoop up and take. They've already taken their 401ks. They've already taken anything that we had, right? So why not take your house too? And sadly, they're coming for us folks in the trailer parks. Come on, play.
You may have heard that big investment firms are no longer buying up as many single family properties, but they haven't given up altogether. Do you know what they're still buying up? Mobile home parks. And do you know why? There's no regulation. The residents that live in these manufactured home parks have been facing increasing rents to the point where they can no longer afford it. What's going to happen to these people? And what possibly could be done if you happen to live in a manufactured home park that does look like a corporate investor is about to take it over? And even though you think, oh, well, this doesn't pertain to me. I live in my own house in my own neighborhood. With the amount of corporate investors that have bought into neighborhoods, maybe even into your neighborhood, this is information you're going to want to hear yourself.
Florida Sun Estates bought a park there and increased lot rents from $389 to $895. Tenants here say they are seeing similar increases.
All right, let's have a conversation about mobile home parks, because a lot of times people have a misconception of what they are. What they are is an affordable housing option for many people across the United States. It's estimated over 22 million Americans that are living in a manufactured home. They're not all necessarily living in a manufactured home park. Some of them have their own individual land that they put them on. A manufactured home park works a little bit different. If you don't know, when you put a manufactured home in a trailer park, as some people call it, you only rent the land underneath it. So you have to pay like a monthly fee every month to make sure that the area that you live in is maintained, the yards are mowed, the front entrance is cleaned up. Anytime there's any road maintenance, anything like that would be covered under those rents. Seems reasonable. Most of the time, those rents maybe go up maybe $20, $25 a year. They'll increase for taxes in the area or any other extras they want to do for their specific park. Individual owners that have maintained these parks for the last several years never increased them exponentially like it's happened in the last few years. Mobile home investors have now coined themselves the trailer park millionaires. These people have come in, bought these manufactured home parks, and increased the rent there on the people that live there exponentially. Imagine being someone that bought a house and put it into this park about 10 years ago. You've paid it off over the last 10 years, and you had the anticipation of, yes, this house was going to have rent that would increase over time. And now the new park owners come in and they increase it to the point where it's unaffordable. And I'm not just talking like a couple $100. In some areas, increased 50%. You know how we've always been told that mobile homes were a terrible investment? Not for home investors.
Say they are being forced from their homes. They claim a company is unfairly evicting them as part of a practice to sell the same homes over and over again.
PBS.org did a piece about this, and it said that driven up by some of the strongest returns in real estate, investors have shaken up a once sleepy sector that's home to more than 22 mostly low-income Americans in 43,000 communities, mainly aggressively promote the parks as to ensure a steady return by repeatedly raising rents. Their whole entire goal is to get the people that live there out so they can get basically a free piece of real estate. Not only just rent the land under it, they actually now have a free house. That George McCarthy, president and CEO of Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, said about a fifth of mobile home parks, around 800,000, have been purchased in the past 8 years by institutional investors.
Okay, so this is just two parts. I brought this part first to just kind of explain to you. So for those of us, and I live in a mobile home park, and yeah, rent has gone up $20, $25 a year since I moved in here. My mother owned the house originally for the last 20 years, and then I've been here for 8 years now because she gave me the house and I moved in. I knew the rent would go up. I think it started out, my rent was like $385 when I originally got here. I want to say it was like $250 when my mom bought the house. And so now we're up to it'll be $550 come January because we had a big increase. So I didn't get a 500% markup or a 50% markup like some of these that we're hearing, but we are hearing that a lot of these mobile home parks are being bought up by these big conglomerates, the same ones that are buying up all the housing, and they're just raising the rent. And the problem with that is people can't just move their mobile home, right? Mobile homes, and I brought a little clip from PBS on it. Mobile homes, especially in Washington state, you have to have a builder's permit in order to move a mobile home, and it can't be a model that's past a certain date. So it used to be late 90s models. I'm sure it's late 2010s models now that are, because they're not safe on the road. So you are not allowed to move them. So if you can no longer afford the rent in the park that you're in, well, too bad. After 3 or 4 months of getting behind on rent, we're just going to take your house from you as collateral for the rent that you owe us for the back, lot payments is basically what it is. And to say that the increase of rent is to go to the park, right, for maintenance or cleanup or all of that, I call bullshit, because these are slumlords. I know, I live in one. And very little money of the extra money that my rent is being raised every year goes to anything in the park. I mean, we have the smallest garbage can that's overflowed within 2 or 3 days of it being emptied. We beg constantly for another can. We're overran with rats. I mean, I can't even grow a garden this year because I've battled the rats every year for the last 5 years, and they just take everything that I grow. So it's hard enough to keep them out of your house, let alone keep them out of your garden. I mean, I have cats, so they stopped coming in. But when I didn't have cats, they just took run of my house. I mean, I came home from work one day and they're just sitting on the damn couch. I mean, I'm not even kidding. And it took, that drove me so insane. It took me months to get them out of my house and out of my life. But yeah, so let's hear about, how they're taking these properties.
About, we first need to understand the business of owning a mobile home park, the land on which these homes sit.
The same reasons why a lot of people buy mobile homes are the same reasons why a lot of them end up losing their investment.
Since Colorado started recording data on mobile homes 3 years ago, we've seen dozens of parks go up for sale. Part of the appeal for investors is how little the landlord has to do. Think of it like passive income if you don't own the structures on top of the land.
Everything up to the home is the responsibility of the landlord.
This cash cow, like some have called it, isn't a new business. It's been around for decades. Esther says it's just traditionally been more of a mom and pop kind of business.
What's new is this veritable gold rush of corporate and private equity investment that we're seeing in the manufactured housing community space.
Although their interest might feel like it's all of a sudden, Esther says it's been going on for years. It's just more rampant recently.
There's kind of a limited available stock.
That's why Esther thinks we're seeing all the competition for available parks.
The myth of manufactured housing, so-called mobile homes, is that they're mobile. These homes are not mobile. They're intended to be mobile once, from the factory to the site of installation.
Some of the newer mobile homes can be moved, but that can cost between $5,000 to $15,000.
And then where do you move them to? And that's a third major challenge. There is such high demand for housing in these mobile home communities that it's often impossible to find an open lot to move your home.
Basically, renters of the land are trapped. And what a lot of big companies have found is that families are willing to do whatever it takes to try to save their home.
Oftentimes, they'll tolerate rents, really egregious rent increases of like 50 to 60%. But when rent hikes become just intolerable, unmanageable for residents, oftentimes they move and they're forced to leave their home in place.
When they
So that's basically why I am still in a trailer park. I grew up in a mobile home, and I always said as I was growing up, I will never live in a mobile home. I will always have a roof and a foundation and real walls. And I found myself in a financial, I can't afford $2,500 for a rental, right? And basically my mom was going to lose this investment if I didn't step in and take it over. So that's how I ended up back in the trailer park. And I've just come to accept it now. But I think it's something that we absolutely need to talk about. We keep talking about how they're buying up all the housing. Well, they're not just buying up the housing. They're buying up the mobile home parks. And these can be flipped so easy, right? They just raise the rent. And when somebody gets behind 2 or 3 months, they go in, they put a lien on the house. They take the house. Now they own the house. they can sell the house and continue to rent out the property underneath of it. It's a win-win for these predator, landlords. My landlord, I've never met. We have a park person who takes payments. I can't say they do much other than mow the big field and take payments, maybe fix a water line if it breaks. But he's a dentist, and this is just an investment property for him. So very rarely do we see him. He'll come through. I'll hear he's coming through, clean up your yard, that type of thing. My biggest complaint is with them not maintaining the stuff outside of my house. The bushes, the trees. Right now I have a bush that's just taking over my outsheds, that stupid ivy. And basically, I'm just told it's my problem. Everything's my problem, right? So I thought we needed to talk about that since we talk about the trailer park. And we need to talk about who's buying up all the damn trailer parks. Did you guys hear there's a freaking serial killer in Stockton? I kind of got an eclectic show today. So we're gonna talk about this, and then I want to talk about bunkers, right? Because everybody's talking about bunkers. But yeah, let's talk about the Stockton serial killer. Apparently he's killing men, and there's a $125,000 reward for any information. Check out the video. Do you know who this is?
Police in Stockton, California say they want to speak to this person about 5 killings in the city and 1 in nearby Oakland. Investigators released this surveillance video hoping someone will be able to a person of interest in this case. Police say the person was seen on surveillance video obtained during the investigation that matches the description given to them by a surviving victim from a shooting last year. The police chief says the person has an unusual walk.
I want you to pay close attention to the uneven stride that this person has. I like to think we all have a normal gait and walk about us when we walk around, but this person's posture is extremely upright and it's noticeable.
The chief says there is no evidence directly connecting the person to any of the killings, and they are just being sought for questioning. The department says 5 men have all been shot to death in Stockton between July 8th and September 27th. They were all ambushed late at night or early in the morning. Investigators say ballistic evidence links all of these cases together, but they don't know if there is one or multiple suspects. There is now a $125,000 reward being offered in this case. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the Stockton Police Department at 209-946-0600. For Inside Edition Digital, I'm Mara Montalbano.
Crazy. Okay, you could end now. Stop. Yeah, keep the music going. Isn't that crazy? Oh my gosh, all y'all living in California, keep your eyes open and don't travel alone. I think the one thing that all of these people had in common is they were alone. There is one that survived, a woman that survived. Actually, there's 2, I think, that survived. There was a woman that survived and there was a man. Basically, he's just shooting at him. Like one guy ducked in his car and smashed into something to get away from him. The FBI says that there is 25 to 50 active serial killers working in the United States at all times. We know that there's one in New York. There's one, I think it's a Staten Island. I know that there's one in New York. Denver's got the prostitute killer. Let's see, there's the West Mesa bone collector. There's so many. The Long Island serial killer, of course. Yes. So you never know. But be careful out there, and don't be running around Stockton at night by yourself right now. Scary. And if you know somebody with that kind of stride, you might make some money off of it. I thought it was an odd story. I hadn't heard it. I hadn't heard this by anybody. So I like to bring you guys stories that nobody else is talking about. A serial killer. I grew up in Seattle. So I grew up in the times of the Green River Killer. You can't be, I think that's probably why I'm obsessed with serial killers. It's because we had that threat as a child growing up. I mean, they were finding bodies literally, 30, 40 miles from my house. And so we always were told as kids, you don't go out alone. You don't go, it just always was prevalent in my life. I think that's why I'm interested in these serial killer stories. We all know who the Green River Killer is now. Thank you, Barbara. Barbara says, amazing interview, Chanda. Thanks. I'm going to rerun it tonight for you guys today. I will put it up for you guys. And you'll be able to catch it on Rockfin and our YouTube channel. So let's talk about Russia warns its citizens, right? So I saw Russell Brand dropped a video yesterday about bunkers, right? We've always talked about bunkers, especially on Beauty and the Boomer. Oz and I have featured a lot of the bunkers over the years because, we all have this mentality of, well, if the elitists want to bring the world to an end, what makes them think that they're not going to end up being, going down with us? Well, it's because they have these bunkers, right? So I want to talk about Russia's warning, and then we'll get into the bunkers. So here is Canadian Prepper.
Guys, there's something circulating around the internet right now. This is from the Russian Civil Defense Ministry. Apparently, this is being posted at City Hall, shopping centers, mass transit stations, and the like. And it is warning people what to do in case of a nuclear radiological emergency. Now, I fact-checked this with a Russian friend of mine who's from the old country, and he said that this is actually quite commonplace because in Russia they have a culture of preparedness. So is this anything to get alarmed about? Yes, it is, because NATO is currently conducting a nuclear exercise, probably against the interests of Russia. And that's likely putting them on high alert.
Okay, so I like the fact that he says that they are a culture of preparedness, right? So they get a lot of warnings like this. We've heard it from Fee. Fee is always reporting on us when they're putting a general warning out, in Russia, in Moscow. So yeah, they've been putting warnings out, but can you blame them? NATO's running nuke drills. Of course they're going to warn their people, unlike our people, right? And so I brought you an interview, and I want you guys to, I'm going to put the name of this channel in the chat for you guys, if I can find it. They're called the Schizo Family, and they have a YouTube channel, the Russian YouTube channel. I like watching the Russian YouTube channels, right? So I try to get information from the actual people of a country, not the mainstream narrative, not the news for that country, but from everyday people just like myself that have a camera, that sit down and just tell you about it. And this is what he has seen and heard personally about Russia drafting people.
The news that there was mobilization in Russia and lots of men was drafted to the army. It's true. It's true. And lots of men was trying to leave Russia through the borders. It's true also. It's also true. Our government said that they need men from 18 to 35 years old with military experience. But our government said something, but reality is another. And I don't know. No one from my friends was drafted to the army, but I heard about friends of our friends what was drafted, and they was not from 18 to 35. They are older. So people don't know. Will it continue or not? Some people said that it was just a stage 1, and it will be stage 2, stage 3. It will be another parts of mobilization.
Okay, so take it straight from the mouths of the people there, right? So he's saying it is true. The draft did kick in, and it is true that people were trying to flee. Men were going and trying to leave the country, which we would see the same thing here if they implemented a draft in the US. I know we would. And he's saying what he heard, and that nobody he knows actually got drafted, but friends of friends, it was older people. It was probably those with experience, because we hear they need experience, right? So That's what we're hearing. I did drop that chat in, or that channel in both the chats, the Rockfin and the YouTube. If you guys want to go follow, I love getting updates from. He's got a cute little family and they go places. And these are the people I like to get information from, the everyday people of a country, right? I follow people all around the world and just podcasters, just live streamers, people just like myself that have a camera and an opinion and want to put it out there to the world. So that was his opinion. But because of this, right, we're seeing a lot of talk about bunkers and where's the elite gonna hide? The elite, I don't know what makes them elite because they have money, but they do have the means to survive, right? So I brought quite a few little series of different bunkers, but let's start out with the oldest of them, and that's is it Ravenwood? I think it's called Ravenwood, or Ravenwood it's Raven Rock. Raven Rock. Imagine that. Why do they always have rock in the name? So this used to be the backup Pentagon bunker, but we know they have a better one now that we obviously are not going to hear about for another 30 or 40 years, if ever, of where it is now. But this is what the old one was.
Could you describe a Raven Rock to me, like what it is, what it's for?
No.
Raven Rock, like Area 51, remains one of the U.S. government's most classified installations. It's all part of a plan that was hatched 70 years ago.
In the 1950s, the government came up with plans for a deep underground command center where the president and, a few hundred staff members not only could take shelter, but also could direct a nuclear war.
The plan is called Continuity of Government, or COG.
At any moment, we could see thousands of members of the government completely wiped out. But there's a secondary government, a shadow government that is ready to take over at a moment's notice.
Raven Rock is an underground backup Pentagon.
It's the most unbelievable place you can imagine. You're 768 feet below the surface.
Don Camel spent 3.5 years at Raven Rock as part of the president's communication team. He's never spoken on camera before about his time working in the secret bunker.
Basically, they carved out a city underground that could survive a direct hit from a nuclear blast. After you go through the security, you walk in and it's basically an underground tunnel. There's a blast door that was 3.5 foot thick that weighed 30 tons. You go through like an airlock. They had 2 of those doors, and then you walk another half a mile.
A half mile deeper into the mountain is the bunker itself.
And you're going past 5 buildings. Those represent the 5 rings of the Pentagon. And each of those buildings are 3 stories tall, and they probably have 50 to 80 offices per floor.
The buildings are mounted on springs to survive the shock waves from a nuclear blast.
There's a common cafeteria capable of serving 3,000 people 3 meals a day for 30 days on lockdown. They had a barber shop in there with 1 chair.
It's got massive reservoirs, generators, even a crematorium if needed, post office, medical facilities, and emergency command and communication links to the U.S. military all around the world.
As part of the White House team, Camel had access to the most restricted part of the bunker. The presidential suite.
The presidential suite is a very secure area. The other people in the site, they had no access, and they were very, very curious as far as what was behind the door. The presidential bedroom was, of course, a king-size bed. Then there was a separate kitchen set up in our suite to feed 30 or 40 people. The presidential office overlooked the war room, which had the same display that was a duplicate of what they had in the Pentagon. We would look down, and of course, they'd look up, and they couldn't see through the glass because it was a one-way glass.
To understand why these bunkers were created, you have to rewind to the 1950s.
My sound's off, of course. Yeah, so that was a great comment, Rob. Corruption, the continuity of corruption. we know that, this is old news. This is old tech, right? This is all stuff from the Cold War that they're showing you here. So am I still muted? So what does it look like now with all the technological advances that they have? Can you imagine what their bunkers, the continuity of government bunkers look like now? Yeah, they blow this stuff away. So now we know where the government's going to be. Let's look at where the rich are going to be. So let's look at some of the most expensive bunkers. And I brought a couple of different named ones. Let's see. This is the presidential. So this is the presidential bunker. Let's check this out.
Bunker, which is one of the most expensive bunkers within Rising S. This type offers adequate space for a total of 38 beds, including 7 master bedrooms that each include a queen-size bed with 7 futon sofas that may be used as additional sleeping space. Moreover, there are private restrooms and showers accessible, each of which is equipped with a water pressure pump, gray water evacuation tank, and a water heater. There is no difference in the security measures taken. Both a door that is impervious to bullets and an infrared surveillance system has been fitted. At the presidential, guests may unwind in the spacious family area, which also features a huge dining table and even an entire dining hall. The large kitchen is equipped with all the same features as the one in the Venetian. The model also includes a fitness center and a greenhouse that is stocked with all of the necessary growing supplies. With regards to storage, more space means that more supplies may be stored in the storage room of the presidential suite, which is larger. In a similar fashion to the Venetian model, this one also includes a garage, as well as a motor cave exit and an adjacent workshop. Another improvement in comparison to the Venetian is that the presidential includes 10 NBC air filtration systems, each of which comes equipped with blast valves and overpressure valves. This can be yours for the extremely
low price. Yeah. So that is the presidential. Now I brought you the condo. I don't even think that we can afford the condo, but yeah, these are all in different places, right? So some of these bunkers are in New Zealand, some are in Crimea, some are in Kansas. Yeah, they're just spread all over the place. And this one's called the condo. And Kate, you were asking about the bathroom situation. I brought a little clip of how the elites are going to handle that. Yeah, you need it for your motorcade to exit, right? Your motorcade needs access to your bunker.
Bunker, which is one of the most expensive bunkers.
Oh, no, come on. You're supposed to go. Okay, here we go. This one's the condo. Let's check out the condo.
We're going beneath Kansas.
So this one's in Kansas.
The condo is spread across 15 floors and goes 200 feet underground. At the top, under the dome, are the recreation facilities like the pet park and climbing wall. Underneath that are the mechanical level, medical bay, and food stores, with luxury living quarters spread across the next 7 floors. At the bottom, a further 4 floors house a classroom, a library, a bar, a gym, and a cinema.
All right, so I'll show you a full floor unit. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath unit, and they have 9-foot ceilings. You see we've got all these high-end stainless steel appliances.
And most importantly, even though I'm 11 stories underground, I still got a window.
When these windows are all on, you're coming out of the units and you see the birds flying and the sunset coming up and the rain and the weather changing. That's the input your brain is used to. If you look in here, you can see that there's the bidet toilets, and we have a jacuzzi tub and a shower with the side jets.
Why do you have bidet toilets instead of regular toilets?
Well, interestingly, we did a little calculation, and the max occupancy for this facility is 75 people. And if we put toilet paper for 75 people for 5 years, that volume of toilet paper would take an entire floor to store just toilet paper. And that square footage costs about $3 million to build.
Okay,
So,
bidet it is.
Okay, so there you see, bidets are going to be the standard in these, because who wants to store that much toilet paper when you can sell that space to another elite to be there? So as you can see, they're pretty set up. They got their fake windows with their fake daylight coming in to trick their brain into thinking that the outside is just right there. Yeah, they're pretty well off. I mean, did you see the first video? They had a turkey or a chicken. I mean, that's pretty optimistic for the future. So I've got one more for you. I want to say this is the opium. Yeah, this one's really nice too. There's one, I saw one, there's an old Cold War bunker in the middle of Vegas that's under a dilapidated house that nobody knows about. And apparently you can rent it out to have parties and people hang out there. They have like movie premieres and stuff down in this old Cold War bunker. I wonder how close it is to Pasta and Steve, but here, let's check this one out.
Our apocalyptic apartment tour is the biggest and best space the end of the world has to offer. I mean, that's what the folks at the Opidum are saying, at least. You just probably need to arrange for emergency travel to the Czech Republic, just in case. The estate is located in a secluded valley behind enormous walls. It's a 323,000 square foot property that has a bit of a different style than the other apocalypse apartments we've seen so far. For starters, it offers above-ground housing. Obviously, that means this facility isn't mainly focused on just a full-blown nuclear winter. You'll be able to pick up either one large 6,750 square foot apartment or one of 6 1,720 square feet apartments. It was built in the 80s during the Cold War, where everyone was waiting for the next global apocalypse to start at any moment. This place is designed to protect you from war, disease, natural disasters, and that sort of thing. And, of course, zombies. Basically, this place offers you a normal-looking apartment life with some special apocalyptic amenities. That includes an advanced security team that is ready to deal with any oncoming threat. Once that threat arrives, you'll be escorted to the underground bunker that is sealed by blast doors in just under a minute. The complex features things like automated weapons that are designed to pretty much take out any zombies, raiders, or aliens that might be on their way. Once you have to go into the underground area, they will try to make you as comfortable as possible until the threat passes. Underneath a simulated natural light, you'll be treated to a spa, an underground garden, a pool, a gym, a library, a movie theater, and more. There are also offices and plenty of supplies if the stay is longer than you'd hope for. The underground space has its own generator in case of a mass blackout. It also has a water purification system and even surgical facilities if they are needed. They also offer customized vaults to store any possessions you might want covered in case of the worst. Then once the threat has passed...
Isn't that insane? I mean, this is totally... I'll take my chances on the surface. Thank you very much. And I live in Washington State, like within 100 miles of Keyport Bangor, which means we're Target. And I've always known that my whole entire life growing up, since my father worked for the government in the shipyard. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's just mind blowing to me that these folks seem to think that, oh, they'll just go lock themselves down here. They'll stay down there, what, a year or two and survive the nuclear winter and everything will be okay. I don't think it's going to be that simple for these folks. And my other question is these security people that are hired to protect them, when it comes push to shove, who is going to walk away from their own personal families to go guard some rich people? I mean, maybe they hire only single guys. I don't know, but I would think if push came to shove and you knew it was time, you're going to want to be protecting your own family, not some elite's family. But that's just my opinion. And yeah, so now you know, they don't, this is why they're not worked up about it, right? Because they already bought we'll just head on. It's like having a cabin at the lake, right? I got a bunker that's 200 feet down, so I don't have to worry about nuclear annihilation. So, and I know I say nuclear weird. I'm not the only one. Ryan Christensen does it too. I think it's an accent thing because for literally years now, people have been like trying to say nuclear. I don't know. I just can't apparently enunciate it, and I never will. Let's talk about Scientology. Change subjects real fast. You guys hear about this lawsuit this trial that's going on with Danny Masterson? Okay, so if you don't, this is a topic for Farron and I. Well, Farron's traveling right now because she's on her way back to DC, but we will get pinned down and do a show eventually. Scientology. So Danny Masterson is a well-known star of that 70s show where he played the character Hyde, and him and quite a few other people on that 70s show were members of Scientology. They hang out at the Celebrity Center, which we all know what that is. That is the big LA celebrity place where the Scientologists hang out. And he is on trial for not one, but two different essays on women. You know, I can't say that on here, but so these women apparently were involved in Scientology. They reported the crime. They reported what happened to Scientology, who buried it. And there's a lot of big players in this story, guys. We got Lisa Marie Presley that is slated to testify, as she was one of the people that was writing reports against these women. These women came to her, one of them at least. And so we're going to find out what she knew. And it's starting to show cracks in Scientology, right? I've always been really interested. I worked for a Scientologist who I found to be the biggest dickhead in the freaking world. These people are delusional. And so ever since then, I've been following the plight of Scientology and the shit that they've pulled. I mean, do you know they bugged the IRS's meeting room so that way they could get information to push back against the government on their tax status? I mean, these guys, we know how they go after people. If you haven't watched Leo Remini's specials, it's out there. It's on Netflix. So many people are starting to escape Scientology and tell us just how bad of a multi-level marketing scam it is and how much of a cult it is. And I think that this trial is going to expose so much more of it, so much more. And I just can't wait to see them go down, right? I can't. I think they're terrible. They take people's minds in the prime of their life. So many are kids. When you find out about the dealings of what they do when they put these people into these organizations, you know, they pay them $20 a day. Like they lock them in, in compounds, and there's just so much. I could do 2 whole shows, but I wanted to bring a couple of people that I'm following. So first, this is Popcorn Planet. I love Popcorn Planet. And this is an interview with a former Scientologist member, Chris Shelton, and just kind of his take on this. And then we'll hear from Aaron Levin, who actually left Scientology too, and he's living in Clearwater. So let's hear about it. Oh, come on. It always jumps the gun. Let's go.
Charges of these women who have come forward alleging that they weren't able to come forward from Scientology. The theory that the LAPD may have been involved in trying to hold this down. That seems to be one side of this argument. And then there's Danny's side, which is, well, no, Leah Remini and team are all just trying to keep the ratings. And this is all, they're all working together. Do you have an opinion on this case based on what you've read so far?
Yes, very much so. Of course, I have not just an opinion. I have a certain degree of experience and knowledge about how the Sea Org conducts itself. And I do happen to know personally, I knew some of the people who were involved with handling these women. There was a man named Julian Schwartz, for example, who was a Sea Org member, and he is an ethics officer. That's his job title. That means he polices people's ethics, their behavior, their conduct. And behavior is very, very regulated in Scientology. So is public image. Public image is number one. And the comparison I'll draw here is to the Catholics. In the face of pedophile priests, the Catholic Church chose to make a decision to cover their asses and cover their public image. And this is very, very well documented. Scientology really treated these women the exact same way. They came forward against Masterson individually. They were not a group. They didn't know about each other for years. And back in the early 2000s, they, each one of them were coming forward to these ethics people and saying, something really bad happened to me, and Danny Masterson did it. And they were told, sit down, shut up, it's your fault. And the principle in Scientology that was applied to them is a very, very pervasive principle there, which is you are always responsible for your own condition.
Okay, so that was just a little breakdown. These women came forward and they tried to get help, and apparently even the LAPD, because Scientology has such a presence where they are, might have been involved in not helping these women. So more and more is going to come out. Yesterday we had a bombshell, and that is, we know that Scientology has a group of investigators, harassers, whatever you want to call them, that do the dirty work for Scientology. If you're a suppressive person, that's what they call you, an SP. You're a suppressive person. I've been called an SP a couple times. And that's anybody who pushes back against their narrative, right? So one of these investigators showed up in court yesterday on the prosecution side. So I want you guys to follow this channel. It's called Growing Up Scientology. Aaron Levin does an amazing job of bringing updates of what's going on with Scientology from around the country. I think he's in Clearwater, Florida. So he brings a lot of the Clearwater, Florida city council meetings, which is fascinating for me to see people actually pushing back and trying to not let their city be taken over by Scientology, because basically they've bought Clearwater, Florida, right? That's where their big head target. Yes, Scientology is a cult, and I will scream it from the rooftops. Absolutely a cult, a multi-marketing level scam, right? That's what they are. So let's hear from Ron. I love this. This guy cracks me up, and I really enjoy his channel. Oh, come on. Why is it every time I click it, it wants to go to the next one?
Jay Quellen. No Jay Quellen here? Balake. Where is Balake at? AA Ron.
Here I am, AA Ron. Thanks for joining me, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Massive bombshell news in the Danny Masterson criminal trial that got underway yesterday. They're doing jury selection this week, but on the first day of jury selection, yesterday, it was discovered that one of Scientology's very own spies, someone Scientology has used for many years to spy on, intimidate, and harass former Scientologists, is cooperating with the prosecution in this case against Danny Masterson. In fact, this very same operative was used by Scientology to intimidate one of the witnesses in this exact case. And that person has now flipped and is working for the prosecution. This is a huge blow, not only to Danny Masterson, but to Scientology and to David Miscavige. Here is how it was reported yesterday. Tony Ortega is following the trial and posting updates to his Underground Bunker blog. Here's what Tony said. While we were waiting for things to start, we noticed someone come down to our end of the hallway and take his seat. He didn't appear to be a juror. He wasn't a lawyer. He was dressed casually. He seemed out of place. He sat down on one of the benches and waited. And as we studied his face, we were sure that we'd seen it before. Then Deputy District Attorney Reinhold Mueller emerged from the courtroom, walked directly to the man, who stood up, smiled, shook Mueller's hand as the prosecutor said his name. And then it hit us like a ton of bricks. We knew who he was. We watched in amazement as Mueller led the man into the courtroom. We had just seen a known Scientology spy walk into Danny Masterson's courtroom with Danny Masterson's prosecutor. We're not going to name the Scientology spy just yet, but here's what we can tell you. The spy in the hallway is someone we've written about because more than a decade ago, he was recruited to target a well-known former Scientologist in a complex, multi-year operation. Then more recently, something far more important occurred. This man was named in attempts at intimidating one of the key witnesses in the Danny Masterson case. And there is independent evidence of it. This is why we were so stunned to see this Scientology operative. And then even more surprisingly, he received a friendly greeting from Deputy District Attorney Mueller and then followed him into the courtroom. Tony explains that he never saw the guy leave the courtroom, but by the time everyone else, including the journalists, were allowed into the courtroom, this guy was no longer there.
So that is a big, huge blow to whatever defense I think Danny Masterson's going to try to put up. The fact that they have one of their spies, one of their guys there to testify against him about what he was ordered to do, I'm sure. Yeah, we've been hearing rumblings about Danny Masterson for years and the Hollywood, underground Page 6 types things. Not a nice guy. Not a nice guy at all. He has that elitism, I'm a star attitude. And he got away with a lot of shit because of it. So it looks like he's not going to get away with it for much longer. I see cracks in Scientology finally after all these years, right? Because they've been so protected by the likes of Tom Cruise and John John Travolta, Christy Alley, Lori Papon. There's so many stars, right? I remember when I was probably in my late teens thinking, maybe I should check out Scientology because, you know, all those famous people, rich people, they seem to know what the hell's going on. Well, once you finally figure it out and what it's about, oh my gosh. I mean, I know L. Ron Hubbard was an amazing fictional writer, right? There's some people out there that'll just go off about some of his writing, including Oz. I know you, was it Dune? Was it Dune that he wrote? Well, anyways, he wrote a lot of really good science fiction, but he took that science fiction and he turned it into a cult, basically. And this is what's surviving after all those years. And there's crazy stories about, you know, the head of Scientology's wife's been missing for 10 years. I mean, literally, if you're interested in this story, go watch Leah Remedy, Surviving Scientology, and follow Aaron, Aaron, over at Growing Up Scientologist. So I just find this fascinating, and it's about time we finally start to see some cracks in Scientology and their relationship with the government, right? They have kind of a hand-in-hand get away with fucking murder when it comes to our government. Any other nonprofit, which we know they're not a nonprofit, they're literally draining these people of their money, right? You get to the next level. Oh, now you got to level up and pay for this lesson. You got to pay for that lesson, right? It's terrible. So about time something happened to them. Hey, good morning, everybody. Starting to stop by. Glad to see you, gamer. Okay, so here's to hell and back portion. I brought two little quick stories. The drugs that we've been talking about that were prevalent, we've talked about it last week and the week before, the trank drugs, the benzo drugs that are taking over more of the fentanyl are now in DC. They're starting to show up in DC. So here's a little news report on it.
DC chemist Alexandra Evans was testing substances from used syringes the city collects and discovered a disturbing first for DC.
We actually discovered a compound called nitazene. It is new to DC, and what we know about it is that it's more potent than fentanyl, so we are a bit concerned about this.
Evans says the biggest concern is how first responders react. Typically with heroin or fentanyl, they'll deploy Narcan, which reverses an opioid overdose. Fentanyl is already up to 50 times stronger than heroin, according to the CDC, and nitazene is even stronger. So she says someone who injected it could need multiple more doses of Narcan to reverse the effects.
You know, we could be on the precipice of something devastating. We've already seen mass fatalities because of fentanyl overdoses. Since this is more potent than fentanyl, we do expect an uptick in overdoses.
The CDC already reported that the U.S. topped 100,000 opioid overdose deaths in the first year of the pandemic for the first time ever. Provisional data shows D.C. saw an 11% increase, Maryland a 21% increase, and Virginia a near 36% increase.
It just shows that this opioid epidemic is not going anywhere. There's constantly new drugs that we're seeing, and they're changing and they're evolving, and we have to keep up with that.
So this is exactly what I've been reporting to you guys for weeks now. It's not just fentanyl, it's evolving. It's being mixed with different drugs, and Narcan doesn't help when there's a benzoid based or that the trank type of drugs, right? So sadly, it's moving. It kind of started in Philadelphia, definitely on the Eastern Seaboard. Now it's in DC. Amber and I were just in Fairfax this weekend, so I didn't see it on the streets of Fairfax, but it's there apparently. So, which leads to MAT drugs, right? Which are medically assisted treatment drugs, which I'm always talking about. Let's see. I'm going to kill this screen share. See if I can get to my next screen share. Okay, make sure I got sound there. I wanted to show you guys this. So I saw this morning come through my email, and WorkKit accepts Molina Medicaid for Suboxone treatment in Washington State. So basically what that means is Suboxone right now is about $600 a month for a treatment. Now, if you don't know what Suboxone is, you're just joining us. Suboxone is a opiate replacement drug that Big Pharma has introduced over the last 10 years. And there's even newer ones that are starting to come out. So it replaces things like methadone. If you are addicted to heroin, now people with fentanyl, it goes in there and it quells that neuron in your brain, calms you down, gives you back a homeostasis where you're not high, but you don't feel sick. You're not in withdrawals. So here's the problem. It always was that for the last 10 years, and I know this from personal experience, that if you came out of a treatment facility and you needed a drug, a lot of people will go into treatment and they'll go through detox for the first 7 days. And then from there, it's kind of depending on what type of treatment center you're in and what kind of counselor you have. If a counselor recommends you to have kind of a opiate replacement program, so that, some people just can't do it. Some people just can't, they go cold turkey and then 2 weeks later they're trying to bust out of rehab because let me tell you, that craving is like something that you will never know in your life unless you've ever had it. It overrules anything in your brain thought wise. You start thinking about, I can knock off a pharmacy, I can knock off a bank, because you just want to get well, right? So these drugs, these medically assisted treatment drugs, are supposed to help people obtain sobriety, achieve it, and obtain it. And I've seen it work for a lot of people. But my biggest problem with it is that the same people who unleashed the opiate epidemic on us are now being rewarded with big profits because of this. And this is another example of it. So Suboxone is $600 a month. You cannot get it. You could not get it in Washington state from welfare unless you jump through a bunch of hoops, meaning your doctor requested it, your insurance has to approve it, the pharmacy has to approve it. And it's a big deal. It takes people a while to be able to get their Suboxone covered by Medicaid. So you'd have to go through this every 6 months. I think you could only get a 6-month approval, and then, then it would expire. You'd have to start all over again. So what this is saying is good news. Molina no longer is requiring a pre-authorization on it. So that just means that the state now, Apple Healthcare, it says Washington Substance Use Treatment is covered by Molina for people who have Molina Healthcare, Apple Health, so Medicaid. So now we don't have to go through the hoops of getting paid, which means Big Pharma is going to get paid even faster, right? I mean, it's a double-edged sword. And you guys know how I feel. I mean, I hate it, but I understand the use of it. It saved my family members, but I hate that Big Pharma is getting rich off what they did. So I just thought I'd bring that little note to you guys since I saw that. And then let's see. I have a Jilly over here. Jilly sent me this. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with anything. I haven't researched this. I'm just going to play it for you guys, and you can tell me what you guys think about this. So let's make it bigger. Jilly sends me the greatest stuff. I'm just going to start at Jilly sent me this section. So I haven't seen Jilly yet today. I hope she's sleeping in, but here we go. This came from Jilly.
You're wondering what's going on with Ukraine right now? Follow along with me for a minute. Karl Marx created the foundation of what is happening in Ukraine today. His real name was Karl Heinrich Mordecai Marx. The father of Karl Marx was Herschel Mordecai, who was the son of Rabbi Mordecai Marx Levi, who was the son of Samuel ben Mordecai Ha Levi, who was the son of Laius ben Mordecai, who in the 1400s, Laius Mordecai changed his name from Mordecai to Schwab. So the Schwab bloodline today is the bloodline of Karl Marx. But wait, there's more. Laius ben Mordecai Schwab was the son of Samuel Leopold Schwab II, who had changed his name from Guntberger to Schwab in the 1500s. And he was the son of Samuel Guntberger, who changed his name from Bauer to Guntberger. And the Bauer bloodline was originally named the Bacharachs during the time of Christ. The Bacharachs in 1501 changed their name to Bauer. And then 76 years later, in 1577, they changed their name to Rothschild. So they're all related. You guys have to go check out this video of Bishop Larry Gators talking about Russia, Ukraine, the CIA, and the Rothschild conspiracy to take out Vladimir Putin.
That's just crazy. Now, I have never heard that theory, but God, it makes sense. We're always saying that this goes back for centuries and centuries. The same ruling families have been in power probably since the time of Christ, right? I don't know, but I'm going to do a little research on this, see if I can verify it a little bit. But I just thought, wow, this is shocking. And let's see what else
It
does
is
Julie have
absolutely
over here
just-
for us. Oh, this one. Let's look at this one. For all of those who think this is a conspiracy, here, I'll back it up. Look at that. That's just natural. That's just water and ice vapors, right? That's just normal. That's what it looks like over my house all the damn time. Never looked like that when I was a kid, but I guess there's more planes in the sky. Isn't that crazy? Jilly always sending me the best stuff. Let's see. Okay, one more. We got one more.
In a person's body to track.
Let me back it up. I'm on my system 3.
Can't rule on that.
I'm gonna. Apparently. Is it ready? My internet's very unstable. My internet's just crap. Jilly. Yeah, it's been like 2 minutes and it just keeps glitching every 2 seconds on me. Is it going to stay this time? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Do I have audio? Okay, I think it might be better. I hope it might be better. Okay, so thanks for joining me today, guys. I'm going to put my video up. I got a couple more cuts from this weekend that'll go up this week with Garland Nixon. And thank you to everybody. Rob Juno, Miguel, Gamer, Jilly, Gamer, Aram, Kate, Catalytic Centaur, Go Start, not Go Stop, and Fred Edwards. Let's see who else is hanging out over there. There's a few more people. Sorry if I missed you. I want to shout out the Rockfin real fast. You guys have been awesome today. Amber King with the tip over there says, all that terrible ice cream music keeps the noodle out of the DC popper. Benzos have no good use or help to get off of or take 2 years just digesting. Yes, I absolutely. And I covered that. I covered that a couple of weeks ago where we did a benzo show. Benzos they are evil, but they're mixing a lot of the fentanyl now with benzoids. So not only is it confusing for first responders when they're on the scene trying to help somebody who's OD'd because they're giving them Narcan and they're not coming back because basically it's the benzo that's taking them down, not the fentanyl. So J9 Campbell, hey J9, good to see you. J-Mo, welcome. Leonard Trust Fund. Tech support, thanks for being here. Lizzie, hi Lizzie. I had my sweatshirt on yesterday. I was at the Walmart and I actually got some people to say, hey, I like your shirt. So maybe more everyday people know about Julian than we think, right? So you guys have been great today. Join Oz and I for Beauty and the Boomer. It's our first one back in like 2 weeks on Saturday. And, you know, we'll laugh, we'll cry, we'll talk about the end of the world like we always do. And hey, you guys, we have a big Halloween show coming up. If you don't know, Beauty and the Boomer's 3rd annual Halloween party is coming up. And It's going to be good. I don't know how we're going to do it this year because there's so many more of us. I mean, it used to be there was just a few of us, right? 20 of us, whatever. So we're trying to figure out how we can best bring everybody in with their costumes and, feature everybody. I got my costume yesterday. It's amazing. Did I go scary or slutty? I don't know. You guys are going to have to tune in and find out. Yeah, so that will be the 29th. We're going to do that October 29th, Saturday, Beauty and the Boomer. Julie, thank you for all of the content you send me. I'm just going to call it the Julie section from now on. We already played that. No. Yeah, we already played that. So yeah, definitely join us for Halloween. Oz is cooking up some crazy effects and some good stuff. He's got an amazing costume this year. So that's what we're planning on. So you guys, we are out of here. And thanks, Al Walski, with the super chat, with the super sticker chat. I appreciate it. And did I miss ARAM? Thank you, ARAM, over on the Roar Media. I don't want to miss anybody. Crone of Anarchy, thank you. Yes, all of our big boomers are invited to Halloween. You are invited to dress up and come sit in the green room. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. Or if you want to, you can. And so, yeah, get those Halloween costumes ready, all of our big boomers. And thank you all so much for your support. This doesn't happen without you guys. That Chris Hedges interview, it happened because you guys funded us to go to DC to get a chance to talk to them. And yeah, I was embarrassed. I was shy. But you know what? When I got you guys having my back, it pushes me to do things I would never do. So that's all because of you. Thank you guys so much. And we're going to close out with Violent Femmes. America is, because America is the home of the hypocrite. Take care. I'll see you Saturday night.
America is, America is, America is, America is, America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. American dreams are full of it. Look at the Indians, look at the blacks, look at the figures, look at the facts, look at the facts, the facts not the lies, and you'll find out, big surprise, that America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. American dreams are full of it. Indians, check out the blacks, and then you check out the figures, then you check out the facts, check out some facts, check out the facts, not the lies, and you'll find out, it's a big surprise, like between the eyes, that America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. America is the home of the hypocrite. American dreams, only dream, no desperation limit. Desperation level, even though my nose don't work, I smell trouble, no desperation limit, no desperation level, murder in the government, say you're sorry, no desperation limit, no desperation level, turn the key, turn the lock, nationalism, you can suck mine, no desperation limit, no desperation level, watch how the world's progressing everywhere. Aggression, 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 aggression.